If you're brand new to short-term rental investing, you're probably excited, nervous, and overwhelmed by the number of different things that you need in order to secure your first property.
I don't know where to start.
But don't worry, I'm going to guide you through the seemingly complicated process.
You saved my life.
And by the end of this video, you'll realize that it's not so hard to buy your first Airbnb property after all. Number 1, get your money in order. First, you need to know how much you can buy with the money that you have, and that includes the cash on hand and the amount that you can borrow. You can use your available capital to pay for things like your down payment, closing costs, and other things related to getting your property ready for short-term renting. Things like furniture, permits, etc. This can be done in the form of cash in the bank, easy to sell stocks, a line of credit, or a loan against your 401k. But any kind of liquid money will also work. Your loan approval amount is the amount of money that your bank will lend you to buy a home. So this money will come from your lender and will depend on your credit score, how much money you make, and how much you spend on debt payments. Usually they look for these things. 1, a job history of at least 2 years, or 3 to 5 years if you're self-employed. 2, that you agree to a credit check and score at least 680. 3, you have a full down payment and 6 months of expenses in cash. A favorable debt to income ratio between 28% and 36%. Or you could also find a friend, a relative, or business partner to work with who can help you fill in any of the gaps that I previously mentioned. Number 2, pick your target market. Next, you have to find a market that fits your budget and your profit goals. And there are a lot of important things that you need to consider before investing into a particular market. Some of these things include local attractions, seasonality, supply and demand, shops, amenities, and infrastructure, as well as festivals and events that happen regularly. You're going to need to check if there's any short-term rental restrictions in your specific area. It's important that you do your research and make sure that both the property and that the area have a short-term rental market with the potential to give you the ROI that you're looking for. Number 3, look for good deals. Now comes the fun part where you start looking at houses that are in your target market.
If you knew where to look.
Most first-time short-term rental investors usually work with an agent who specializes in the acquisition of short-term rental properties. If you're not super comfortable with the numbers and don't know what is a good deal, this is where you could go into the Facebook groups and ask other people to look over your numbers for you. There's a lot of Facebook groups with investors that specialize in short-term rentals, and they can look at those and see if that property could potentially be a good deal. This is where you have to keep in mind that a lot of real estate agents don't know what they're doing because they are just helping out residential homeowners, and they're not specifically for investors. When you are buying a property with the intent to short-term rent it, you are purchasing an investment property. If you haven't seen my video on how to actually run the numbers on acquiring a short-term rental property, I'm going to link that somewhere on this video as well. There's a lot of other sites like Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, and For Sale by Owner that are available. And if you've chosen a market that's within driving distance, you can also just drive around the area and look at homes that might be a little bit run down because you might be able to find a better deal on those properties. You can contact the owners and see if they might be interested in selling. You can also work with wholesalers who are essentially real estate investors whose only job is to find good deals for other investors. To do this, you can go to biggerpockets.com, type in your market, and then type in wholesalers. Number 4, estimate your profit. You'll need 2 kinds of information to figure out how much you'll be able to make, and those are your income and your expenses. To calculate your income, you can use a variety of different tools, which is what I recommend, and not just using one. Tools like AirDNA, Price Labs, Mashvisor, Keydata, Rabu, Awning, these are all different ways for you to be able to find out how much rental income you could potentially make in a given area. It'll also show you the occupancy or how often the property is rented out for. When it comes to expenses, those will typically depend on whatever your principal payment is, as well as utilities, any other services that you might be including. You're going to need to factor in the cost of your interior designing and remodeling if necessary. As much as possible, look for homes that just require a few cosmetic fixes, especially if you're not buying brand new ones. You want to make sure that the essentials like plumbing, electricity, roofing, and the foundations are in good shape. Those are fundamental and critical things to look out for. But things like old paint, old interior, old carpets, or even old landscaping, these are all easy fixes and won't cost you a ton of money. I'll talk about this more in a bit because if you are renovating, there are a few additional steps that you do need to do. And then you can't forget about your operational costs, things like utilities, maintenance and repairs, and even vacancies. When you have all this information, you can put all of it into a mortgage calculator or a short-term rental specific calculator. And I'll include a link down below to a free resource that you can use in order to calculate your short-term rental income. Just remember that you have to compute the whole year and not on a monthly basis because seasonality does affect your monthly expenses. Now, to find a property that has good profitability in a market that you're looking for, you have to be patient. It might take you a while to find a good deal.
What's taking so long?
You might look at 100 deals and make 20 offers before you land the right one, but just keep looking and you'll eventually find that deal that does meet your requirements.
You need to learn the patience.
Number 5, make an offer. For this step, it's important that you work with a very skilled real estate agent, especially if you're from out of town.
He's good.
They'll know the local market, be able to find you comparables, and will know local and state regulations. Your agent will hopefully use the best strategies to negotiate and win the deal, help you arrive at the best contract terms and conditions, and then walk through the local and state regulations that you need to be able to comply with.
This is impressive.
Number 6, inspect the property. This is the time to physically go to the property and make sure that it's in the shape that the seller has told you that it's in. We all know photos can be deceiving. You have to find out if there's any other things wrong with it.
Something is not right here.
Recheck the plumbing, the wiring, the drainage, etc. See if there's any cracks on the walls, molds, those types of things. And make sure that you check as much as you can. Even the neighborhood, you have to see what's up and see if there could be any potential problems.
Hello? Who your new neighbors?
Go and talk to your neighbors and let them know your intentions with the property. You might find out that you have a toxic neighbor right away, and you don't want that, because if you're going to be buying this property for the intent to short-term rent, if you have bad neighbors, noisy neighbors, whatever it is, oftentimes neighbors can be the bane of a short-term rental's existence.
You're a bad boy! Get off our porch!
I've heard of countless stories of neighbors making it really difficult for people that own short-term rentals, causing disturbances for the guests, calling cops for things that are very minor, or if just the neighborhood is sketchy and a guest approaches your house and they don't feel safe to go in, they could get a cancellation on their booking and a refund, and Airbnb could potentially even block your listing.
I just want to get some sleep.
If you need to renovate, you're going to have to find out how much it's going to cost you to do so. You can look for contractors on Yelp, Handy, Thumbtack, Google. These are all places where you can read reviews from people that they've served. And when you do any renovations, always anticipate that it's going to cost you around 20% more and take 20% longer than what you would expect. So add up all the necessary repairs and ask the seller for a price reduction or a credit to make up for them. As is what people will typically say, but depending on the market, you might actually be able to get it. There's really no harm in asking. It's fine if they say no, but be sure to ask, because most people will give you a discount if they realize that their request is valid. Inspections are like the second round of talks. Even if your initial offer has been accepted, you now have a little bit more leverage and can lower the price, even if it's just a little bit. Number 7, close. Once you and the seller have a deal, it's time to close. Do this as soon as possible so that you can get the property ready for renting. Pay the escrow fees, closing fees, lender fees, and all the other fees that you need to. Then you can start the remodeling and furnishing of your unit to get it ready for your bookings. So there you have it. These are the steps that you need in order to take in order to get your first rental property. If you're interested in all things real estate and short-term rentals, then subscribe to this channel. Talk to you all on the next one.